Imagine sitting at your desk, staring at a blinking cursor. You are trying to write an important update to your manager. Or, picture yourself waiting to unmute your microphone on a massive company video call.
Oh, yeah. Your heart beats just a little bit faster. Right?
Exactly. You have this sudden kind of overwhelming fear that you might use the wrong verb tense or maybe choose the wrong preposition. And suddenly everyone will realize your English just isn't perfect.
Right. We often carry this ghost of a high school teacher in our minds, just hovering over our work with a red pen, ready to mark every tiny mistake.
Is so true. Well, welcome to our deep dive into the world of office English. Today we are building a warm, welcoming, and patient space just for you, our listener.
And that anxiety you mentioned, it is incredibly common. It really comes from how we are traditionally taught languages. In a classroom, language is often treated as, well, like a binary system.
Right. You're either completely right or you fail the test.
Exactly. But the moment you log into a real corporate network or step into a real office, the rules change entirely. Workplace communication is not about textbook perfection. It is about clarity, confidence, and connection.
Today, we're going to slow things down. We are going to explore the vocabulary and the hidden rules of communicating naturally at work.
And most importantly, we will look at why native speakers use these specific expressions so you can really understand the logic behind the language.
When we look at the sources on workplace communication, a very comforting truth emerges. The corporate world does not care if you occasionally make a small grammar mistake.
Not at all. What your managers and coworkers care about is whether they understand your ideas. Speaking clearly and politely is vastly more valuable than speaking with absolute grammatical flawlessness.
Right. The goal is collaboration, not a perfect test score. That immediately lowers the temperature in the room, I think.
It really does. It takes the pressure off.
Now, because our goal today is to help you feel comfortable, we are going to do something a little different. I want you to treat this deep dive as an active practice session.
Yes, active practice is key.
We are going to introduce some key sentences. And when we pause and tell you to, we want you to repeat those sentences out loud wherever you are.
Do not just practice single words. Practicing the full, complete sentence is the absolute best way to improve your speaking rhythm.
Why is that full sentence practice so important?
Well, speaking a language is quite literally a physical activity. You are training the muscles in your face and mouth to move in new ways.
Oh, that makes sense. Like muscle memory.
Exactly like muscle memory. By reading aloud and practicing full sentences, the words stop feeling heavy and they start to flow naturally.
So let's walk into the building and start our workday. The morning routine always begins with getting your bearings.
You're right. You sit at your desk, you wake up your computer, and you begin your day.
And when a coworker walks by and asks what your morning looks like, a very common response you might give is, I have a meeting this morning.
Let's focus on that sentence. I will say it slowly, and I want you, the listener, to try repeating it out loud. Here we go. I have a meeting this morning.
Go ahead and try it out loud. We will wait a second.
Great. Now let's talk about how native speakers actually say that word.
Yeah, let's look at the word meeting. When you see it written on a page, there is a very clear T right in the middle.
But when I hear people say it in an American office, it rarely sounds like a hard T.
Right. You are noticing something called the flap T. In North American English, native speakers are constantly looking for the most efficient way to move from one sound to the next.
A sharp, hard T requires you to stop the airflow completely, right?
Exactly. So instead, when a T is trapped between two vowel sounds, the tongue just lightly taps the roof of the mouth. It softens into something that sounds almost like a quick D.
Oh, I see. So meeting becomes meeting.
Meeting.
Yeah.
It definitely flows much better.
Let's try the full sentence with that smooth flow. Everything connects. Listen and repeat. I have a meeting this morning.
Try saying it with that soft D sound. I have a meeting this morning.
Beautiful. So, you know your morning plan. The very next thing almost everyone does is open their inbox.
Oh, definitely. You might tell your colleague, I'm checking my emails.
I want to pause on the verb here. Why do we say check instead of see or read?
It really comes down to the difference between a passive action and an active process. If you say, I am seeing my emails, it implies you are just looking at the screen.
Right, just observing the colors and the text without doing anything about them.
Exactly. But the verb check implies an inspection. You are actively filtering information, deciding what needs a reply and what needs to be deleted.
I like to think about the physical analogy of an old-fashioned metal mailbox outside a house. You don't walk outside just to stand on the sidewalk and see your mailbox.
You would look pretty silly doing that.
Right. You open the door, you reach inside, you pull out the letters, and you sort the bills from the junk mail. You actively process it. You check it.
Let's practice that active phrasing.
Yeah.
Listeners, say this out loud right now. I'm checking my emails.
Give it a try.
Excellent. Once the inbox is clear, you look at your calendar for the week. You say, I'm organizing my schedule.
This word always fascinates me. Depending on who you are talking to or what country their company is based in, you hear it pronounced in completely different ways.
It is a wonderful quirk of linguistic history, actually. If you're working with an American team, you will almost always hear a hard K sound.
Schedule.
Schedule. But if you are dealing with a British or maybe Australian team, you will hear a softer, kind of elongated sound, right?
Right. Schedule.
Why did it split like that? Did someone just decide to change it one day?
Actually, yes. It ties back to Noah Webster, the creator of the American Dictionary. In the early 19th century, he actively wanted American English to have its own distinct identity.
Oh, separate from British English. Exactly. He reformed the spelling and pronunciation of many words to match their Greek or Latin roots more closely. Since schedule comes from the Greek skedai, Webster pushed for the hard SK sound.
That is fascinating, but both are completely correct today, right?
Yes, absolutely. Both are globally understood. So whether you are organizing your schedule or your schedule, the morning administration is done.
Now, we shift into the actual labor of the day. This brings us into the world of projects, tasks, and deadlines.
You sit down with your manager and you give them an update. You say, I'm working on a new project.
Let's practice the core of that sentence. Listener, repeat after me. I'm working on a new project.
Take a second and say it out loud.
Good. Now, I want to push back on the grammar here a little bit because prepositions are notoriously difficult for learners.
Oh, they are the hardest part.
Why do we say we worked on a project? Why not work in a project? If a project is a big folder of documents, shouldn't I be in it?
That is a great question. Prepositions in English are highly spatial. They rely on physical metaphors. When we use the word in, we are describing containment.
Like being inside a room or inside a box.
Exactly. But when we use on, we are describing the application of energy or attention toward a surface or a target.
Ah, I see. So when you work on a project, you are directing your mental focus and your professional effort onto that specific goal.
Yes, you are applying pressure to the project, kind of moving it forward.
That visual makes perfect sense. Let's look at the pronunciation of the word itself. The stress is heavily on the first syllable. Project.
Right, the energy drops on the second half. Project.
Try saying the whole sentence, listener, putting the power at the beginning of that word. I'm working on a new project.
Say it out loud. Find that stress.
And as you apply that energy, you are driving toward a very specific goal. You might say, I need to finish this project.
We use the word finish constantly at work, finishing reports, finishing presentations. But the real pressure comes from the next sentence.
Oh boy. You tell your team, the deadline is tomorrow. Let's practice that. The deadline is tomorrow.
Give it a try, listener.
The word deadline is so common, we forget how aggressive it actually sounds. I mean, it literally has the word dead in it.
It really does.
Yeah.
Where does a corporate term like that actually come from?
It has a rather dark and fascinating origin. It dates back to the American Civil War, specifically to a prisoner of war camp called Andersonville.
Wow, I had no idea.
Yeah, the prison was severely overcrowded, so the guards drew a physical line in the dirt or built a small fence about 20 feet inside the main prison wall.
Okay, and what was the rule?
The rule was absolute. If a prisoner stepped over that line, the guards would shoot them. It was quite literally the deadline.
That is incredible and really grim. So when we use it in a modern office, we are echoing this intense, absolute boundary.
Exactly. A deadline is not a suggestion. It is a boundary you cannot safely cross. Once the date passes, the opportunity is gone. The task is late.
Well, the stakes are slightly lower than a 19th century prison, thankfully.
Right.
But the psychological boundary remains exactly the same.
Note of the pronunciation as well. Because of that intense meaning, we hit the first syllable very hard. Deadline.
Deadline.
Try repeating the sentence, listener. Keeping the stress sharp. The deadline is tomorrow.
Say it out loud.
You know, hearing the history of a word like that makes it impossible to forget.
It really does. So the project is moving forward. The deadline is approaching. But no one builds anything completely alone in the modern economy.
No, we rely on our coworkers. The next phase of our workday is all about collaboration.
You might walk up to a colleague and say, we have a meeting at 10 o'clock.
Let's dissect the preposition here because it is an ironclad rule in English. When we refer to a specific point on the clock, we must use at. We say at 10 o'clock or at noon.
I often hear learners say in 10 o'clock. Why does Hindi feel so natural to some speakers, but it is incorrect in English?
It goes back to that spatial metaphor we discussed earlier. In implies a container. We use in for months or years because a year is a large container of time.
Like in October or in 2026.
Exactly. But 10 o'clock is not a container. It is a precise, sharp point on a dial. You arrive at a point.
Let's practice hitting that point clearly. Listener, repeat this. We have a meeting at 10 o'clock.
Go ahead and say it out loud.
Now you are in the meeting. It is your turn to share the data you have been working on. You tell the room, I need to prepare a presentation.
This is a long, multi-syllable word that can easily tangle the tongue. The trick is not to rush it.
Right. English speakers use a rhythmic bounce for long words. Presentation. The main stress is on the te.
Try to find that rhythm, listener. I need to prepare a presentation.
Let's say it with that bounce.
And during that presentation, someone might want to look closer at your data. They will ask, can you send me the report?
Let's practice that one quickly. The stress lands heavily on the second half. Report.
Try asking the question smoothly, listener. Can you send me the report?
Give it a try.
We're talking a lot about conference rooms and walking up to people's desks, but we have to acknowledge that the landscape of the office has radically changed.
Oh, absolutely. Over the last few years, digital collaboration has completely taken over. We live in a world of webcams, screen sharing, and noise-canceling headphones.
Which means an entirely new set of phrases has become mandatory for professional survival.
Exactly. If you are sitting at your desk wearing headphones and a coworker approaches you to chat, what is the fastest, most professional way to tell them you are busy?
You point to your headset and say, I'm on a call right now.
Notice the preposition on making a return. I am on a call. Why are we on a call rather than in a call?
This is a beautiful example of technology moving faster than language. Historically, telephone communication required physical copper wires.
Right, the old switchboards.
Yeah. When the operator connected your line, your voice was traveling on the physical wire. We still use the exact same spatial metaphor today, even though the call is entirely wireless and digital.
We hold on to the ghosts of old technology. Let's practice it, listener. I'm on a call right now.
Try saying it out loud.
Once you are safely on that digital video call, you need to initiate the meeting. There is one specific sentence that has arguably become the most widely spoken greeting in the entire corporate world over the last 5 years.
Oh, I know exactly which one you mean.
You look at the grid of faces on your screen and ask, can you hear me clearly?
It functions as the modern digital handshake. It is polite, it is highly professional, and functionally, it immediately diagnoses any microphone issues.
Right, before you waste 5 minutes delivering a brilliant speech to total silence.
Let's practice this vital question. Listener, repeat after me. Can you hear me clearly?
Say it out loud.
You check the audio, everyone nods, and the collaboration continues. But after hours of looking at screens, discussing projects, and chasing deadlines, the brain simply cannot process any more information.
It is time to step away. Strategic resting is a core component of productivity, you know. The mind requires time to consolidate information.
You turn to your team and announce, let's take a lunch break.
I always find the use of the word break here very descriptive. Think about the mechanics of driving a vehicle. When you want the car to stop moving forward, you push your foot down on the brake pedal.
Right. While they are spelled differently, they mean functionally the same thing in this context. You are breaking the momentum.
You are stopping the machinery of your workday to let the engine cool down.
A sudden pause in the continuity of effort. Listener, say it out loud, visualizing that pause. Let's take a lunch break.
Give it a try.
You take your break, you eat, you return to the desk, and you push through the final hours of the afternoon. Finally, the sun starts to set.
The building gets quieter. It is time to wrap up the day. You check your list and you say the most satisfying sentence in the English language. I finished all my tasks today.
Let's clarify what a task is compared to a project. A project is the massive, overarching goal. A task is one single, manageable unit of work.
Right, sending an invoice is a task. Reviewing a document is a task.
Listener, let's practice this sentence of accomplishment. I finished all my tasks today.
Say it loud and proud.
But before you can shut down the computer and walk to the elevator, there is always the afternoon ritual, the end-of-day emails.
You have to send out your final documents. You tell your coworker, I'll send you an email.
This introduces a critical element of natural spoken English, contractions.
If you read a formal grammar book, it will tell you to say, I will send you an email. But Native speakers rarely use the separated I will in standard office conversation.
Why is that? Does I will sound too robotic?
It can sound robotic, but more importantly, it can sound slightly overly demanding or severely formal. In English, we constantly look for ways to soften our speech, to build rapport and show friendliness.
Oh, that makes sense. By squeezing I and will together into ow, we save a syllable, we keep the rhythm fast, and we sound much more relaxed and cooperative.
I'll call you later. I'll review the document. Let's practice the natural contraction, listener. I'll send you an email.
Try it out loud.
And while you are typing out that final email, you need to sound polished. Let's quickly outline some universally excellent professional phrases to include in your written messages.
Yes, these are great for any beginner to memorize.
If you are attaching that report you worked on all day, you do not just say, "Here is the file." You write, "Please see attached."
It is standard, expected, and highly respectful.
When you are wrapping up the body of the email, you want to acknowledge their effort. You write, "Thank you for your time."
Very polite. And if you need them to answer a question or confirm a detail,
You add, "Please let me know." And my personal favorite way to professionally end a message that requires a response is, "I look forward to your reply."
these phrases act as the social lubrication of the corporate world. Using them correctly signals that you understand the culture of the office.
Okay, the emails are sent, the screen goes dark. But before you stand up to leave, I have one final bonus pronunciation challenge for you.
Oh, I love a bonus challenge.
Look down at your desk chair. You have been sitting in it for 8 hours. Is it comfortable?
This word is a famous trap for English learners. When you look at the spelling, it has 4 distinct visual parts. Comfortable.
It makes logical sense to pronounce every single vowel. But spoken English is what linguists call a stress-timed language.
What does a stress times language mean exactly?
In many languages around the world, every single syllable gets the exact same amount of time and weight. It sounds very steady. But English is different.
Right. English jumps from one stress syllable to the next, and it crushes the unstressed syllables in between to save time.
This is called elision. So native speakers take those 4 syllables in comfortable and swallow the middle entirely. They compress it into 3 messy sounds. It sounds like comfortable.
Comfortable. You completely lose the O and the A.
They vanish entirely. This is why listening to native speakers can sometimes be frustrating, because they are constantly erasing the letters you see on the page.
Let's practice this one together, listener. I will say it slowly. Comfortable.
Try saying it. Comfortable.
Now try saying, my chair is comfortable.
Say the full sentence. My chair is comfortable.
It takes time for the ear to adjust to those hidden rhythms. And that ultimately brings us to the core takeaway from all the material we have reviewed today.
The absolute best way to improve your English communication at work is not by memorizing a dictionary. And it is certainly not by worrying about the red pen of perfect grammar.
No, it is about immersion and imitation.
Precisely. You improve by paying close attention to the rhythms of your coworkers. Listen to how they compress their words.
Read their emails and borrow the specific phrases they use to close their messages. When you hear the same phrases in real situations over and over, your brain naturally maps the patterns.
That is why we emphasize reading out loud. Whenever you have a private moment, maybe when you're working from home or commuting, read those professional emails aloud.
Say the phrases aloud. Connect the physical muscles of your mouth to the vocabulary in your brain.
The knowledge only becomes power when it leaves your mind and enters the room.
So as we close our deep dive today, I want to leave you with a final provocative thought, a small piece of homework for your next workday.
I want you to look around the space you are in right now. Challenge yourself to silently name 5 objects around you in English. Find the gaps in your daily vocabulary.
Observation is the first step of fluency.
And tomorrow, when you open your laptop and start your day, I challenge you to use just one of our new sentences with a coworker.
Tell your manager, I'm working on a new project. Or ask a colleague, can you hear me clearly?
Step over the fear of making a mistake. Trust your muscle memory and simply communicate. You have totally got this.